Hello, my name is Oliver. I'm a teacher and game programmer, and today I want to show you a couple tricks that we use to implement great sounding sounds into our game. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to walk you through implementing some squash sounds for when we kill bugs. So I just want it that when I drop a block and it lands on these bugs and they get squashed, it should make a kind of squash sound to give the player some feedback. So in implementing this squash sound, we're going to go over 5 different tricks that we think really elevates the sound in our games. The first thing, if you're implementing sounds in your game, you absolutely, before you start setting up sounds, want to set up your audio buses. So the settings for the audio buses live under the audio tab down here at the bottom. And by default, you'll just have a master bus, but you're going to want to add at least a sounds and a music bus. And this is really important to do earlier in your project because whenever you make a new sound, you need to assign it to a bus. And so if you wait till the very end to add these buses, you'll need to go back through your project and change every single sound, which is a total pain. The point of these buses is that it lets us control the volume of all of our sound effects and the volume of our music separately. And this is obviously a feature that shows up in almost every game. We want to make sure that when we're putting in all the settings for our game, that we give the player the option to control the sounds and music separately. And to do that, you need to have these buses set up. So start with this. Don't skip this because it's going to be a pain to come back to it later. Trick number 2 is about sourcing your sound effects. I have 3 suggestions for you. First is JSFXR. This is really good for just getting a lot of sound effects quickly, especially if your game has kind of an 8-bit sound to it. You just click these and it'll basically synthesize your sound using a bunch of sliders. You can mess with these sliders if you know what you're doing to modify that sound. And you can also just click these over and over until you hear one that sounds good, download it here. This is a great way to get started with sounds, especially if your game has more of an 8-bit aesthetic. Other than that, I use Pixabay a lot of royalty-free sound effects. I think they also do other stock stuff, but sound effects are mainly what I use. Today, to make our insect splat, we're going to be using this sound here. But the thing I really like about this site is just that it's so responsive. You can just click around and hear different sounds really quickly. Sorry about all the squashing sounds. I maybe should have picked something more palatable for the example, but whatever. We're doing it. So we're gonna pick this sound, and you might have noticed this has a bunch of sounds in a single file. So what we're gonna need to do is edit this after the fact. My third recommendation for sounds is to source your own Foley by going around with a microphone and just recording stuff around you. We've done this for games in the past, like All Hands. We haven't done it much for this game, but we might as we get closer to the finish line and need some more bespoke sound effects. So let's edit down that sound effect we got on Pixabay. I recommend Audacity because it's free. It is a little bit clunky, but it's not too bad. You just drag in your audio file, select out individual sounds, and then you just go File, Export Audio, and just make sure you select to only export the current selection. Okay, so we're in Godot, and I picked out 4 squash sounds I liked from that collection, and now we're going to try to add them to our character. Now, trick number 3 is going to be about localized audio. When you add an audio player to your game objects in Godot, by default, it's just going to be this audio stream player, and that'll play all the sounds globally. Most of the time, this is what you want. Most sounds you always want the player to hear if you're playing them, but sometimes you want the sounds to be localized to a certain area. So instead of using an audio stream player, you're going to want to use an audio stream player 2D or 3D if your game's 3D. And this has many of the same settings, but it also has this max distance parameter, which tells you how far away can the player be and still hear this thing. About 2000 seems pretty good for me. Remember that our screen is about 2000 pixels wide. So basically, if this guy is on screen or just off screen, we should still be able to hear. The trick to using these is you also need to put an audio listener on either your player or your camera to receive that sound. And once you've done these 2 things, it'll pretty much work out of the box. And don't forget to set the bus here to the sounds bus. Trick number 4 is randomizing your sounds, right? If you just put a sound in here, this will work. It'll make our scarab make noise when he dies, but it'll always be the same noise. And that can sound unnatural and annoying, honestly, if the sound plays very often in the game. So what I very often do is instead of dropping in one stream here, you right click and say, I want an audio stream randomizer. And this will give me a list of fields where I can drop in different sounds. And so I'll drop in my 4 different squashes, and I'm also gonna tell it to randomize the pitch of these squashes a little bit. I'm gonna say 1.1 in there, just a little bit of variance. So when I play this, watch what happens. It picks one of the squashes at random, randomizes the pitch a little bit, and so it sounds a lot less repetitive if this sound comes back over and over again. Okay, trick number 5 is about playing a sound when its parent is being destroyed, which sounds like kind of a niche use case, but it shows up all the time when you're making a full-fledged game. Let's give this a good name before we start coding. Let's call this our squash sound. To start this playing, all you need to do is get a reference to it in your code, and then play that sound when you want that sound to trigger. In this case, it's when the bug dies. And usually this will be fine. However, in this case, the bug is dying right now. If I play the sound, then kill the bug, the sound gets destroyed too, and we don't hear anything. So what we have to do is we have to move this sound onto some other object. The simplest way to do this is we say, take our squash sound, and we're gonna reparent it to the bug's parent. In other words, we're going to make it a sibling of the bug. So rather than being a child of the bug, it's going to move up and share the same parent as the bug. So when the bug dies, the sound gets left behind, because we want that sound to play for like a second after the bug is dead. This will work, but we should clean up after ourselves. You can imagine if I was running the game for a long time, we would just end up with a ton of these extra sound effect objects laying around. So what we like to do is, after that sound is finished, let's connect a function, and we'll say, let's take our sound and cue free. Delete that sound once it's done. And with just those 3 lines, we can solve what I think is a very common problem when it comes to playing sounds while an object is being killed. Okay, I think that'll work. Let's try that out. Okay, let's see. Hey, we got a squash sound. We'll do some more up here. Nice. Well, that's all I have for you today. If any of that was useful to you and you want to help us out, you can like and subscribe and all those things, or you can go wishlist our game on Steam. It's called Cappy Tappy, Temples of Peril. Thank you for your time. Good luck and have fun.
Cappy and Tappy, Temples of Peril. Play the free demo now on Steam.